A paper cut is one of the smallest injuries you can get. Most of the time, it isn't serious, it doesn't require a trip to the hospital, it won't leave a permanent scar. But somehow, those tiny cuts can hurt more than expected. They sting and they linger. And every time you accidentally touch the wound, you are reminded it's still there. And after listening to Imani Imani's album, Papercut, I don't think the title is accidental. In fact, I think it tells us exactly what this album is about. Because Papercut isn't an album about one catastrophic event, it's about the small emotional wounds we collect throughout life, the disappointments, the misunderstandings, the expectations that never materialize, the relationships that slowly shift, the moments that seem insignificant on their own, but eventually shape who we become. And that's why I think a lot of people are going to miss the real story this album is trying to tell. They are going to focus on the relationships, the romance, the attraction, the heartbreak. But I don't think those things are the destination. I think they are the vehicle. When the album begins with Bet on Me, we are immediately introduced to a person who believes in themselves or at least wants someone else to. There's confidence in that title, there's ambition in that title, there's a desire to be seen. Then the album moves into songs like Come Together, Snatch, On Demand, and You're Mine. So notice what happens. The focus gradually shifts away from self and toward another person. Connection becomes the priority. Desire becomes the priority. Attachment becomes the priority. And that's important because attachment creates vulnerability. The more invested you become, the more capable you are of being hurt. That's where Mind Games becomes one of the most important songs on the project. To me, this is the moment where the album changes directions. Up until this point, there's a sense of pursuit and possibility. But Mind Games introduces uncertainty. Now we're dealing with confusion, mixed signals, questions without answers, the realization that things may not be as simply as they first appeared. And once that crack forms, the rest of the album starts feeling different. Songs like Slide and Chasing feel less secure. There's movement, searching, wanting, trying to hold onto something that may already be slipping away. But here's where I think Paper Cut becomes more interesting than a standard relationship album. Because the deeper you get into the project, the less it feels like it's about another person. And the more it feels like it's about identity. Who are you when things don't work out? Who are you when your expectations aren't met? Who are you when the version of the future you imagine no longer exists? That's why One of One stands out so much. After all the uncertainty, all the emotional turbulence, all the chasing, suddenly we arrive at a song centered around individuality. The title itself feels like a declaration. There is only one me. My value isn't determined by whether somebody chooses me. My worth doesn't disappear because something didn't work out. My identity doesn't belong to anyone else. And if we're talking about the song that defined this album, One of One absolutely belongs in that conversation. But the song I keep coming back to is Let Go Wishes. Because I believe this song contains the central lesson of the entire project. Look closely at the title. It doesn't say let go of a person, it doesn't say let go of a relationship, it says let go of wishes. That's a completely different conversation. Sometimes we're not grieving what happened, we are grieving what we hoped would happen. We're grieving the future we imagined, the version of events we created in our minds, the expectations we attached to ourselves. And often that's harder to release than the actual situation itself. That's why I think Let Go Wishes is the most important song on Papercut. Not because it's going to be the biggest record, not because it is the catchiest, but because it explains the album. It's the moment where healing begins. It's the moment where acceptance replaces expectation. It's the moment where the wound stops being reopened. Think about it. A paper cut only continues hurting when it keeps getting touched. And emotionally, many of us do exactly that. We replay the conversation. We revisit the memory. We imagine different outcomes. We hold on to possibilities that no longer exist. We keep touching the wound. Let Go Wishes feels like the first moment on the album where the cycle finally breaks, where peace becomes more important than possibility, where reality becomes more important than fantasy, where growth becomes more important than holding on. Then the album closes with My Mistakes. And I think that's an incredibly smart ending because after everything we've experienced throughout the project, the final destination isn't blame, it's reflection, it's accountability, it's self examination. Whether those mistakes are larger or smaller, the title suggests someone willing to look inward instead of outward, someone willing to grow. And when you put all of these songs together, Paper Cut starts revealing itself. This isn't just an album about relationships, it's an album about the emotional cuts we collect while trying to navigate life. The disappointments, the attachments, the expectations, the insecurities, the lessons, and ultimately the healing. Which is why, if I had to identify the most important song on the album, my choice is Let Go Wishes. Because it isn't just another track on the project, it's the song that gives meaning to everything around it. It's the moment where the album finally understands that healing isn't about changing the past, it's about releasing the future you thought was supposed to happen. And once you do that, the wound finally gets a chance to close.
Hey cousin, who you chillin' with?
I'm chilling with Moni.